Hello and welcome everybody to the Chief Chat. It is Friday, August 20th, 2021. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us today, giving me some of your Friday. I plan to do good things with it. So if you haven't heard an exciting update about the live event, you most likely have heard the news. We made the tough decision to cancel the in-person portion of Copy Chief Live this year for the simple reason that I sort of refuse, call me spoiled if you must, I refuse to do a compromised in-person version of Copy Chief Live for the simple reason that, as my friend Dean Edelson called it yesterday, he said it's a rock concert for copywriting. That's kind of what Copy Chief Live is, and that's what it feels like. By the way, I was just at a big concert a couple weekends, Hella Mega, with Green Day and Fall Out Boy and Weezer. And the great thing about it was, after a year and a half of not being at a live show, if you don't know me, you know I live for live music. It's my thing. Just to look around and see the joy people have to see one of their favorite bands on stage, to hear the music, to become immersed in the music, and to be surrounded by other people who feel the same way. There's just nothing I can think of that compares exactly to that, because you've spent so much time with this music and it's a part of you and you have memories attached to it. And if you can get to be there with some of the people who you created those memories with, and it's just, it's magic. And that is really my goal for the live event. Now, that doesn't mean that we try to make every minute, we're not getting people out of their seats to jump up and down and do silly stuff. It's not the same energy as a rock concert is supposed to be, but there are moments certainly that feel that same way. The party certainly feels that way. I mean, we literally get up on stage and jam with the band, and people jump up and sing, and we dance, and we have dance-offs, and it's just a blast. The event itself, we try to bring in what we consider rock star presenters and speakers. And just the vibe and the energy of the whole thing is unique and special. I've never seen anything like it in any other event. And so for that reason, I'm a little biased about how it should go down. And I respect and appreciate everybody who's had to try to hold events under these circumstances, over the last year or whatever. People have been trying to have events again. And look, I won't get into the all the politics and the different ideas about how we should go about it, and if people are being too sensitive. None of that matters to me. What matters is we're all going to use common sense, and we're all going to be coming from different perspectives on what's best and how we should go about things when there is a damn virus attacking people, right? And so I choose this year, as I did last year, to just say, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to have that conversation. Here's the thing. Maybe there's a business lesson in this for everybody. Is that, man, one of my great friends and mentors, Jessica May Stafford from The Bottom Line, always says this to me. She says, profit is measured in three ways. Anybody know what they are? Three ways we can measure profit in our life and our business, particularly our business. Time, energy, and of course, money. Time, energy, and money. Profit is measured in those three ways all the time. And so every decision you make balances those three factors. So for instance, if you delegate in the simplest form, if you delegate a thing to somebody, it costs you money, but you win back time and energy. And, it's the 4-hour work week in a nutshell. It's like you can only really excel when you aren't stuck doing the day-to-day stuff that bogs you down. And so for this, it was a time, energy, and money win to not do it, but emotionally a heartbreak. However, here's the good thing. What I quickly realized when I came to this decision, and I worked with my team, and we all sat around and decided together that this was the best thing. We quickly became energized by the idea that we got to now put all that time, energy, and money into having the greatest virtual event we could possibly put on, because we were already going to do both. We were going to do the live event and a virtual component, because no matter what's going on here in the US, and particularly here in the crazy swamp of Florida, you know, hi everybody, come to Florida. It's going to be great. Trust me. You know, not exactly the announcement I wanted to make. You know, but regardless of all that, there were people who have come every year, who we were hoping to meet for the first time, who's just no way they were going to be able to come and travel internationally to be a part of this thing, right? And so it already felt compromised. So we were at least going to create a great virtual experience for them. And what I started to realize, as I said, listen, I want this to be a no-brainer for anybody who attends virtually. I want them to feel as much like they're there at the live event with us as possible. And to do that was becoming quite a to-do. It was getting expensive, and it was getting, it was going to take a lot of time, energy, and money. But again, I didn't want to compromise on it. So all that to say, when faced with the decision, do we do the in-person component or not? I was like, let's just put all the energy, all the resources into the virtual event and make that as stellar as we can. So that's what's happening. And I feel really great about what we're doing, because now we just get to, it's out of our hands. You know, this is the right thing to do. You know, we need to now focus on how to create the most amazing virtual event. And that's what we're going to do. So now I'm on fire for this. Here's the other great thing about doing a virtual event. You can get speakers to commit so much easier. They don't have to, it's not a 3-day thing for them now, at least a 2-day thing to fly in, to prepare a talk, to make sure their clothes are pressed, to, you know, all these things that you do to go give a talk now. So yesterday I'm interviewing Mike Michalowicz, one of literally my favorite business author, Profit First, Clockwork, Fix This Next. His new book is called Get Different. It's coming out on September 21st. The guy is just incredible at writing really practical, usable, actionable stuff for entrepreneurs. And at the end of the interview, I said, hey, Mike, I'm doing this event in November, and I would love it if you could give us like a 30-minute talk about a specific thing. He opened up his calendar. He's like, I'd be happy to, man. I'm there. Boom. Right. I mean, so how cool is that? I could tell just by how he was looking at his calendar. If he'd had to fly to do it, forget about it. So anyway, it's exciting. So we got some of the speakers I could tell you confirmed. A few more I'm working on. Mike Michalowicz, Selena Sue, Paris Lampropoulos, David Deutsch, Laura Belgray, Adrian Dorison, who runs the Clockwork implementation arm of that book with Mike. And I have, by the way, as usual with the speakers, I like to bring in, I only want to present somebody to you that I can tell you from firsthand experience, their stuff works and it's effective, because every one of the people I just mentioned, I have used their stuff in my business. And so we'll have case studies, we'll have real numbers to share. Dean Jackson. So it's going to be amazing. And here's the whole deal. I am looking at this event in this time we'll spend together as your way to think about getting together the game plan to completely kick ass in 2022, right? It's happening November 9th, 10th, and 11th, which means what? That's really, let's be honest with each other, the last bit of real work you want to do before you get into the holiday stuff, right? You may have a project, or you may be launching something in December, January, but you know, hopefully you got that work done. And when it comes to, you just want to be able to relax. You go into the holidays, November into December, relax. Let's get all that planning done. Let's get your playbook ready in mid-November, So you launch out of the gate on J1 feeling confident, feeling sure, feeling complete, feeling focused, and you just boom, set that tone going into 2022, right? That's what I want for you. That's what I'm going to deliver at this event. So every single speaker, every expert, every presenter I'm bringing in is there, not because they are, have a name or do cool stuff, specifically to help you accomplish a thing that I know from my experience of working with very high level freelancers and brand new freelancers every single day in Copy Chief and in our coaching programs. What is the most needed in your business to move you forward? And so I get to now teach you everything I know and bring in high level experts who sit and focus on these specific things every day. Selena Sue, there's nobody better than Selena Sue in helping you get PR, right? Knowing how to pitch yourself to get to write articles for the big publishers like Forbes and Inc. and how to land podcasts, how to pitch yourself to podcasts in a way that is welcomed instead of you feeling like, another intruder, Casey Stanton, I didn't even mention. Casey Stanton, who's doing our featured training in Copy Chief this month, is the best I know at making yourself indispensable to your clients as a freelancer. He's got an amazing system for becoming what he focuses on is becoming a fractional CMO. But when I heard what he's doing and he showed me and I was like, wow, blown away. What I took from it was, okay, everybody in our community, they might be a little more specialized. Maybe they don't want to be a full on, hey, let me come in and be your fractional, temporary CMO. That's a lot, right? You may be ready for that. And that's awesome. But how can we, the thing that stood out to me about what Casey's doing is, okay, when you follow a system like that and you can identify with your client the real levers in their business that are going to move the needle on their revenue, you become indispensable. And so when you approach it like that and you work with your client to create that kind of plan in 90-day increments, you stay as booked as long as you want with that client. You're indispensable. Think about it. I just wrote this in an email that'll go out Thursday. What does it mean to be, I love the definition of indispensable. It's two words, absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Love that. What a clean definition. And how great would it be to picture your dream client, your best client sitting around with their team and they go, okay, everybody, what is absolutely necessary for us to reach this most important goal we have? And somebody jumps up and they go, well, I can tell you one thing that it's Jimmy Parent, right? Jimmy Parent is absolutely necessary because without Jimmy, we're going to lose sales fast. So if you think about that, you imagine that question and somebody stepping up and saying your name, and because without them, we're going to lose X fast. What are they losing? What is it you provide of unique value to them that they see as indispensable and absolutely necessary? That is what we want with our offers, with our services, because that means we're doing work that fulfills us. That means that we're actually collaborating. We're measuring the value of what we deliver to our clients in a way that makes it clear to everybody why they're writing you big checks every month, right? I always say to my client, I want to be the happiest check you write every month. Let's figure out how that looks for you. And so I'm getting excited, but that's that's the kind of vibe and that's the kind of stuff you're going to leave whatever. I may call this, I don't know what I'm going to even exactly call it yet. Copy Chief Live presents, we'll figure that out. Stay tuned. September 17th is when the tickets go on sale. You'll have all the details by then, and it's going to be really exciting. Hi, Shimon. Good to see you. Okay, cool. So One other thing I want, oh, by the way, exciting show today. And again, thanks for being here. And we have some best things we're going to do. Some of our members of Copy Chief have agreed to come on and share the best thing. What is that? Simply, it's the best thing they've learned this week or recently about something important. And so they come on and they say, the best thing I've learned is this. Here's what it is. Here's the source from which I learned it. And here's why it was particularly relevant to me right now and how I used it. So you get an example. So it's just a cool little free lesson from somebody with goals like yours about how to do a certain thing better. Really useful and fun. So if you ever want to share a best thing, what should they do, Alita? If they're inside of Copy Chief, then they can sign up. There's a sheet inside there and you can come on. And by the way, it's a great little clip to have too, of you sharing a best thing on a platform like this. It's great authority content and you should share that on your social media and show everybody what a badass you are for sharing cool tips. So we're going to do that. And we have Jabe in the hot seat today. Really interesting product. It's about chess moves for, people who want to be great at chess, which I loved the game of chess, but I don't know much about it. I've only played it sporadically. I did watch the Queen's Gambit, so I mean, I pretty much know everything about chess. But Jimmy in particular gave some great feedback. So Jimmy's going to come on the critique with us, and I'm excited to dive into Jabe's stuff. Before we do that, one other thing I want to talk about. Let's talk about pricing for a minute. And if you would just, by the way, say hey in the comments if you haven't already. I just love seeing who's here and knowing who I'm talking to. And if you're seeing this later, again, thanks for joining. I know that pricing continues to be one of just the biggest struggles we have as freelancers. I can tell you that, I certainly faced this issue myself when I was freelancing, just not knowing. You're guessing all the time when you're starting out. And I never thought in my career, in my life, I remember very distinctly hearing an interview with Dan Kennedy. He was on like a panel or something. And he basically said, somebody asked him, what do you charge for a sales letter? And this is years ago. And he said, I charge, hi, Rachel, good to see you. Hey, Jeremy, what's up? Claudia, hey. He said, Chris, he said, I charge $40,000 for a sales letter. And I was driving and I almost hit a sign. And and everybody in the room was like, my God, $40,000. And he says, yeah. He goes, and you know why I can charge $40,000 when other people may only get 10 or something? He said, because I can say $40,000 with a straight face. You know what I mean? And I said, and I heard him say that. And I said, I know that is so true. You just know that thing like that is true. There's so much. And again, believe me, I'm the last person who would ever say, just say big numbers and then, wing it. Of course, we're talking about being able to back up. Dan knew he could provide a minimum of $40,000 worth of value. But so many other freelancers know that too, but they can't say the number. They just can't bring themselves to say the number. And so we incrementally raise our fees, hopefully. My rule was always this. I would charge what I really believed I was worth, and I would take the no's because your current clients aren't paying that, and they're going to be no's for future projects. So you take a few no's until you get to some yeses, and then you learn how to pitch better and to whom, and now you're at that price. And whenever I would get to a certain, and my first price I remember getting to as a goal was like $6,500 for a sales letter. I mean, we're talking not crazy, right? This is years ago. But I remember when I got to that, I said, okay, and now I'm booked out. If I'm booked out long enough at my current price to where I'm talking to people who would say, that price sounds great to me. I just can't wait 3 months to get on your calendar. I go, aha, Great. Time to raise the price because supply and demand, and you need to balance that. You can't be booked out 6 months at your current price when there's clearly people ready to pay even more if you weren't booked out 6 months, right? So I always like that 3 to maybe 4 month window of being booked ahead at my current price. And then the minute I started hearing people say, price no problem, can't wait that long, maybe down the road, boom, you raise the price. And then it works. So all this to say, years later, Dan, I was having dinner with Dan Kennedy, which is another thing I never expected would happen when I was starting out. Let me share if I could. I'll show you a slide. Boom, 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 boom. Huh. Okay. Tell me if this works. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing that slide? No? Dang it. So one thing I got to figure out about StreamYard here is how to share better. Share screen. I go to Chrome tab. Window. I don't want to break. You're not seeing that right now? You don't see Dan Kennedy and John Carlton and me at dinner? You do? Or yes? Nod for me because I can only see. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Cool. All right. So this is me at dinner with Dan Kennedy and John Carlton and David Deutsch. And if you want to hear a funny story about how this dinner came together, real quick. So John needles Dan into having this dinner because John believes, I think correctly, that Dan doesn't spend enough time hanging out and palling around with people he likes. Dan's just, all business. And so he needles him, of course, by fax, which is literally the only way you can needle Dan Kennedy. Needles them over facts about having this dinner. Come hang out with your buddies. It'll be great. So we go to it. We book it. We walk to this restaurant. We sit down. Dan still can't quite wrap his head around that this is what we're doing. So he says, the minute we sit down, he says to us, so is there an agenda for this meeting or are we just hanging out? And we all look at each other and we go, just hanging out. We're just having a good time. He goes, okay, great. It then launches into one of the most hilarious stories I've ever heard. He'd just come from Joan Rivers' memorial. And he's telling the story about, it's in this big church and the people are getting on stage. And because it's Joan, they're, telling Joan stories and really, body stuff. And Dan says he's dying. Howard Stern's telling stories and all these people. And slowly people are getting up and leaving the church. It's her funeral and the people are walking the room at Joan Rivers' funeral. Hilarious. So he tells us this whole story. And so Dan likes to hold court. So we're just going to sit at Dan's feet for this whole dinner and it'll be a blast. And so at one point I say, Dan mentioned something about writing a copy for a company. And I say, wow, that surprises me, Dan. I didn't think you still were hireable as a copywriter. I said, what do you charge for that? What's the Dan Kennedy fee? And he explained to me how he charges. And that's what I'd like to share with you. The way Dan charges for copy is that it starts with rules of engagement. And so nobody can even know that there's a way to have a day with Dan until they've been through a proper, what he calls gestation period. My Dan Kennedy sounds a little too much like Rush Limbaugh, but gestation period. And so they're on his newsletter or something and they get, oh my God, I could have Dan consult me for a day. to come to Dan's office for a day costs $19,400 specifically. And I said to Dan, interesting, why not just 20K? And Dan said, everybody likes special pricing. I just want nothing complicated about it, kid. By the way, if you want Dan to come to your office, it's 19.4 plus a private jet to your town in a limo to your office. So then what he does is he spends the day consulting the client. By the way, this is from RFL. I usually only teach this in our paid courses, so you're getting a special treat today. And then at the end of the consult, if he thinks it makes sense for him to write copy for you, he will say, you're going to need this copy. Would you like me to write it? And if they say yes, Dan then does the most logical thing I've ever heard. He pulls out a yellow legal pad, and he writes out everything they will need. So he says, okay, it's going to take me a week and a half of research. You're going to need a sales letter. That's 4 days, an email series. And he just lists everything out, and he goes by the number of days. And then, of course, the price for those days is what? $19,400, right? Because that's clearly what Dan gets to spend a whole day with you and to focus on your stuff for a whole day, because he just did it with you for this day. And you're sitting there wallowing in all the brilliance of Dan Kennedy. And you've basically invested already in making this whole plan together. And maybe he even says, since we had this day together, I can cut the research down to, it would have been 2 weeks, but it's 10 days. I'm sure there's some salesmanship in there. But the brilliance to me of that is, so this was $388,000 for me to write the copy. Does that sound good to you? I project that it'll produce this many millions or whatever. And they go, sounds good, Dan, let's do it. And that's it. You see? And now, so establish your value. You discover the problem to be solved. You do the math together with the client. And then you estimate in hours, but you quote in dollars. Okay, that's the key I want to get across to you. For you backstage internally, you estimate in hours, how long is it going to take you at your value to produce what is needed. And then you, of course, factor in expenses and things like that. Here's why that's so helpful. Because when you do it that way, suddenly you're pricing for what you need to get paid based on the value you've estimated that your time and energy is worth, instead of guessing what the client will pay for it, instead of looking for clues about, well, they mentioned they worked with that other copywriter who they didn't like so much and they paid them $5,000, so maybe they pay me $7,000. Irrelevant, doesn't matter. Right? A restaurant doesn't put out a sign that says lobster special today. And then you come in and you go, hey, that sounds delicious. How much is that lobster dinner? And they're like, have you had lobster before? Yeah, I've had a lobster. What'd you pay? Was it good? Maybe it was all right. What'd you pay for that lobster? I don't know. I don't remember. $50? How about $55? I mean, they know what it costs to feed you a lobster. And so that's what they charged you. And so we got to do the same thing with our pricing. We have to know what it costs us to deliver the thing and how long it's going to take us. And then we just charge. That's the price. You say the price, and the client, the customer, either says, yes, that sounds great, or no. And if it's no, then you explore why it's no. Is it no because I haven't quite demonstrated how that number makes sense for you? Is it no because you just simply can't wrap your head around investing that kind of money? Is it no because you don't trust me? It doesn't really matter what it is. Some no's are overcomable and others are not. And when you discover why, And then maybe there's a way to work with pricing if you think it's worth it and all that, but you got to start with what you actually need to get paid for your stuff. So there you go. That's a lot about pricing, but I just wanted to give you context for how I believe we should all be pricing our services. Okay. And I want to bring Tian on because how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Let's talk about money.
Let's talk about money. Tian is one of our great badasadors who will be helping you every day inside of Copy Chief. We're blessed to have him. He stays up all night long to be on these calls with us. I really appreciate it. And you and I have been chatting backstage about pricing because there are some pricing guides out there. And you are a data scientist among other things, so you really understand how to analyze data and make sense of it. So what do you think about the guides we've seen that are available to us?
I mean, I think it's a good comparative tool to use if you just want to know what's the competitive pricing, just like how you would, research around when you do your research for a product, what the prices and what the offers. I am starting to feel that there's a reason why we are an advocate for knowing your own price, right? Because we can get very funky about money, as how you would say it. And I think it also boils down to just having a conviction about how clear we are with what we offer and the value that we offer to the table. So it's more like a big discussion around it because everyone has a different way of doing it. I am leaning towards more of knowing what clients have paid than to ask what copywriters have charged. I think that would be a clearer story to really examine about how the supply and demand for copy services go. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And I think it'd be helpful because I completely understand why people want some sort of guide. Like, look, if I could create a menu that made sense for everybody, and just every time somebody, because I get it from both sides, I constantly helping freelancers price a project, and I'm constantly answering from good clients, well, what's the going price? What should I consider paying for this for somebody good? And there is just no, if I could pull up a menu and go, well, it's right here, and you just work from that. It's just not that clean, right? There's just expertise, there's experience, there's so many things that go into the value of everyone's a specialist in their own way.
Yeah.
But it certainly helps to have some sort of general guideline to work from. So I'm throwing this out to the community as well. I would love for us to just kind of work on thinking through together as a collective, what should be the criteria around the guideline? Would we want to see 3 possible prices? Because I think, Tian, they don't only just want to know what's the number. How do you justify bigger numbers than smaller ones?
Yeah, I think the real deal is like, what do you do? How do you now present your own prices with your own unique qualifications and services? And if you offer something much better than that or more specialized, like if you think in terms of an outcome, how would you price that? Not just a quantity. Like, how would you price a 9-word email that Dean Jackson writes that does so well? And instead of going by quantity, where now you have more work, it's more like how much thought do you really put into this in your experience and charge for that outcome. So yeah, it's about how do we present it, not just knowing about prices.
That's a perfect example, because I literally sat with Dean on the phone and he helped me construct a 9-word email, and I kept trying to make it a 90-word email. And he had to sit there and lovingly go, no, that doesn't need to be. It's just those 9 words. And I'm not kidding when I can tell you it's responsible for millions of dollars in our business. That single email to launch the conversations. And if he told me, I'm going to write you an email, it's 9 words, what would you pay for that? I'd go, I don't know, $100. Like, I don't know. So that's a really great example. Okay, so we'll continue working on that. We are collecting resources, and we're kind of like studying other people's studies behind the scenes here, because we want to create it in our own way, in a way that, one of the funky things about money is the minute you say a number, it becomes the number. That's why you got to be careful, and that's why we say to freelancers, try not to price if you're not ready to price when they ask you for the price. You get those, sometimes those prospects, they say, I just need, give me some idea. And you say the number and it's usually too low. And then you hang up and you go, damn it. Like now, if I come up with a different number, I got to go sell them on why it's suddenly higher. They're locked in the number you said. It's very dangerous.
But having said that, I think we shouldn't attach too much envy and shame over the fact that we scored a deal, right?
Yeah,
and they paid us what we want, and we always have the opportunity to offer more. So don't guilt trip yourself.
100%, especially when you're new. Look, in Escape Velocity, in our program for just launching a freelance business, folks, we say, who cares about the money? Screw it up every way you can. Just get paid the first few times. Don't even worry about and that's important because you got to just prove the model and get some momentum going, and then we can figure it out. But so yeah, good point. I don't mean to shame. I want people getting what they're worth. I get frustrated when people are like, we can't read tea leaves to price ourselves. So, okay. Thank you, man. Did you have a best thing to share as well?
Oh yeah. So it actually relates very nicely to what you just talked about. All right. So I'm an idea kind of guy, and I can overthink an idea to death. And so the best thing for me to do when I'm in that kind of situation is to define a clear path to reach the goal before I do anything else. Okay. So I'll give you an example. If the goal is to write a sales letter that become a control, and that's like a very high bar number 10, right? The clear path for me would be to write a full outline, and that's like bar number 1, right? And like I'm a data scientist, so if the goal is to fully deploy an AI in the company system, which is like bar 10, well, I can just make a model first that just makes one prediction for one tester, and that will be bar number 1. Okay, so this way, if I start with the lowest bar and I have a clear path to success, then I spend my energy on only the necessary things to produce a meaningful feedback loop so that I can go back again and repeat and improve it sufficiently to get better feedback until it becomes a full-fledged thing. But don't start off with the full-fledged thing. Just like what you say for EV, you want to prove the model first. What does that entail? Well, you have to start to know how to do prospecting, whatever, and get the deal. That's one full cycle, like one full set, right? You can go back and increase the reps. You can go back to improve your form. You can go back and increase the intensity, but until you've done one full rep, you ain't got nothing started. And I got this advice from my boss during my performance review. And I think I'll thank him later on for that $1 million advice one day. So this is helping me to make progress on initiatives and new projects that I undertake that I've never done before. So to summarize, if you are in a situation where you have to lift an entire initiative all by yourself, something new you've never done before, right? First thing you do, define a clear path to the goal. So that's what I want to share.
Fantastic. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Another great share. As always, I just love your wisdom. And again, really appreciate everything you do for us in Copy Chief. And we will talk soon, my friend. Thanks. Okay. There we go. TianYan, what a brilliant guy and a generous. When he speaks, I just get calm. You get that? I just like, oh, it's so logical. And I just feel like everything's going to be okay. I get a little worked up, as you can tell. I've never heard him get riled up. It's beautiful. Okay, let's get another best thing from Alix. They are also a badassador and there to help you inside of Copy Chief. Hello, Alix. How are you?
Hello. I'm quite well. I am also mildly hypnotized by TianYan's voice.
It's just soothing, and it's almost like he practiced it, but I think that's his actual voice. I think that's his spirit coming through his voice.
Yeah, that's just him slowing down enough to interact with himself, which is wonderful because you know me, I am highly excitable. So when I get to hang out with TianYan, it's like, oh, okay, I can just take that one next right step, and I don't have to think about the whole thing at once.
It's brilliant.
It's great.
Yeah, if we actually just adopt his cadence, suddenly we think differently and more calmly about things, right?
Exactly. It's wonderful.
That's really smart. All right, let's hear your best thing.
So my best thing, it's kind of, it's about kind of the mindset that goes into, hold on, I have notes. Now I'm thinking about TianYan's voice and Disney songs. It's just too much for me.
You set the bar.
Right? It's bar 10. It's bar 10. So my best thing is about the invisible work that goes into like overnight success and success in general. So we all hear about the duck, right? That's scrabbling ridiculously fast underneath the water, but all you're seeing is it floating. A better example for that, from what I have found, is from the horticultural world, like you do. And it's bamboo, right? So we've all heard these like torture rumors about bamboo growing so fast that you just sharpen it and it like grows through people, and that's disgusting. But we all do know truthfully that bamboo does grow ridiculously fast. It's like an overnight success kind of a plant, right?
Right.
But what we don't hear about is that only happens after bamboo shoots. Once you plant a seed, a bamboo seed, there's this whole length of time where they're building an intense root system and support system and like learning how to stand essentially and getting all of the pieces in place for this giant bamboo to grow out. And that can take 7 years. So you have 7 years of this seed phase, and then bamboo breaks through out into like the air and whatnot, and it's not soil. What I'm taking this too far, but it shoots and it'll go 10, 20, 30 feet in a month. But you have these 7 years that you don't get to see what's happening. You have to trust the process, build the root system, and keep moving. So my best thing is kind of, if you're not sure how you're going to break through the surface, check your root system, make sure you have all of your supports, make sure that everything is developed the way it's supposed to be. You probably just have a little bit more time to wait. And once you break the surface, you're going to rock it.
Love that. Thank you for that. I never knew that about bamboo, actually.
But you heard the weird torture myth, right? I feel like everybody knows that one.
I didn't know that one either, actually.
Okay, well,
I was just looking at bamboo last night on my walk around the neighborhood, so that struck me. Yeah, no, that's really cool. It's so important to read. You're right, especially now when all we're seeing is everybody's greatest hits, right? All day damn long, we're just scrolling through everybody's greatest hits, and it is impossible not to feel emotions you don't intend to feel, the jealousy and anxiousness and
we talk a lot about like A roll and B roll. Like you see somebody's Facebook and that's their A roll, that's their published movie, and you don't get to see all of the ridiculous nights they spent crying and eating cake on their kitchen floor because they left those on the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
They didn't, if they're not you, they didn't Facebook it. So like,
right. Yeah. I will say my daughter does the wackiest thing. It's probably not unusual for people her age these days, but whenever she cries, she takes selfies of herself crying. And I guess needs to let her friends know I'm legit in tears right now. And it's usually at a movie. It's usually at a Marvel movie. For some reason, the Marvel movies sent her in just complete chaos of tears.
I mean, they're very well done stories, Kevin. I'm not sure if you know this. Also, Angelina's my spirit. Just like I don't want to say spirit animal because that's your daughter, but like just spirit. But I mean, those are perfectly woven stories. So you could do a step by step on those with like Campbell's heroic journey or Vogler's if you wanted to condense it.
For sure.
Yeah.
With multiple characters, like really fascinating too, that they cover all that within that context.
Right. And now we're moving into like the fourth section where we have the Loki variant and all of the different ways that he's going to be.
Control.
I have control.
Controlling yourself. Okay. Well, hey, that's maybe a new training. So love it. All right, Alix. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Another great best thing. Awesome. Okay, let's get into our critique, and let me welcome Jabe. My first time getting to meet Jabe. How are you, my friend?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm
It's
doing
good
good,
to
sir.
see you. Thanks for
Good
being
seeing you.
here. Thanks for jumping into the hot seat. This helps us all learn, and it's I always say the moment somebody becomes a true writer is when they crave the harsh critique, because all they really care about is the best end result. Give us a little context around this project.
Yeah, so the product is an opening repertoire for chess players, mostly post beginners to intermediate to advanced players, level players. Uh, so when I did the research, one of the things that stood out is that they're having problems with coping with the amount of stuff they have to learn in the opening phase of the game, specifically for for this opening, which we built the product on.
Okay,
So yeah,
wow. So
I
the
led
product
with
built around one specific opening, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of you having to explain
yeah.
chess to me, but I feel like I'm only one member of how to control the opening. Is that false? Is there a almost agreed upon way to open, or if your first move is this, then the other person is most likely going to do that, and that's your opening? Or is it just about where you put your piece and that's all that matters?
There are some ways to classify openings. This one's pretty broad, but yeah, it's supposed to be broad. But yeah, the approach we've taken here, or at least the author's approach, is to try to streamline everything by picking something that's not commonly played, but at the same time, it cuts down the study time and
Yeah.
gives the user plenty of chances to score for a knockout. Score a
Okay.
knockout.
So the big benefit of this particular product is, of course, like any, having an advantage, winning, being looked upon fondly by your opponents and comrades. But also streamlining your study. If you don't have a lot of time to really master this game, this will give you an edge.
That is true. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. Well, let's bring on our good friend Jimmy Parent.
Hey, that's me. Can you hear me?
Jimmy,
Yes,
we hear you,
sir.
buddy.
Awesome. Yeah, hey, I wanted to jump in real quick. So, Kevin, with the E4, E5, like, that's such a cool headline and opening, because if you're brand new, that means nothing to you. Case in
Right.
point, you're like, I don't even know what
I'm
this
not gonna-
is.
Yeah.
But as you start learning chess and you're getting up into, there's rankings, and so as your ELO score gets up to like 900 to 1200, E4, E5 is, they call it New York style. It's like one of the go-to openings. It's like E4, E5. Well, then there's a specific subset of moves that you can make from there. But what's tricky about this is if, so you go E4, E5, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go, was it like F3 or D, D3 or something like that. And they do a move and you're like, wait, what am I supposed to do? Like to counter that or to prepare for that attack. And so you start making the wrong moves, and then you end up setting yourself up for like a checkmate and 6 or 7 moves. And so that E4, E5, it's easy to screw yourself out of a good game. And so what this course, like what I see in the copy of what this course is doing, is it's like, hey, look, there's a ton of theory, a ton of different, theory in chess is just like theory in guitar, right? There's a lot of different moves you can make based on this architecture, right? And so there's 1,000 ways to screw it up, but there's an easy way to remember which one is which with this simple framework. So it's taking like decades of theory and condensing it into something that a beginner, an intermediate beginner, can actually remember. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Great analogy with guitar. I also think about football, American NFL football, where what you establish early in the game may be sort of a dummy strategy, or it may be an aggressive strategy. It's kind of similar, right? Football is very much a chess game in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So thank you for that context. Jabe, please tell us when you presented this copy for critique, what you were struggling with or wanted help with.
Well, first I ran this by Jimmy and TianYan via the forums. At first, I was struggling with the lead. Jimmy thought that I gave away the product, or at least the mechanism of the product, way too early. So I worked on that. Since then, I've tried rebuilding the sales letter using bullets, like I've learned from the bullet writing masterclass, which is just fantastic. I tried to apply the stuff I learned from there, specifically the write the outline in bullets and then write in between, flesh it out in between. So I'm
Yes.
just yeah. So basically, have you guys bullet check it, see if it's
Yep. Cool.
if
Just
it's
going to give
really
everybody a
working.
little context if they're not in copy chief, haven't seen the training. Bullet checking is something I used all the time because I had a writing partner. And so he would send me his first draft. And one of the first things I would do with the first draft, there's always fat in the first draft, of course. And so I would bullet check it. And I knew once we got to closer to a final draft, every 3 to 4 at most paragraphs you could pull a bullet out of, unless you were really telling a story. But for the most part, what keeps your eyes moving down the page is there's new information and there's takeaways happening throughout the copy. And so you bullet check it to make sure that that's consistent through your copy, especially longer form sales letters. Cool. All right. So I'm going to bring it up here.
You figure out how to screen share that?
Yeah. Let me get this going.
Sweet.
It's not quite as instinctive as the old... should I go to this? I'll just go I'll go to the, let's go to the thread. That way we can kind of see the progress. I think, is that best, Jimmy? Do you want to go back up to the last thing?
Or we could,
or do you want to see the document itself?
I think the document itself might be easiest.
Okay. Give me 1 second, everybody, and we'll get to that. Yes, stop showing me that warning. Thank you. Okay. All right, here we go.
There we go.
So the current headline now has been, I saw how this has been whittled down. It's E4, E5, now what? Yeah, Jimmy?
Yep.
And
yeah,
so,
I'm in the doc too.
Okay, cool. I got it on screen there. Oh, cool. You're there. You're an anonymous pumpkin.
Yes, I am.
Weirdly, my nickname for you. Okay, cool. So yeah, tell us where we're at and what changes we've made to get it here.
I'm
Jabe?
sorry, I didn't quite get that. Yeah, for
Jimmy or Jabe, like I guess what's the biggest takeaway and what we've changed and done so far to change the lead?
For the lead, the paragraph directly beneath the headline, so it hinted at it being an opening repertoire right away. So I cleared that out, instead referring to it as a forgotten 40-year-old system.
400.
And the 400-year-old system. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, right.
Also, the language used in that was a bit more how do I say this, chess playery, instead of like being as simple as it could be, like here, where I talked about theory and stuff in there, instead of just saying that it clears away the confusion after 1E4 E5. I was also missing the bit about pumping up your win rate by up to 70%, because that just came out of a video session I did with the author just the other day. So I added that in. Yeah.
Great. Cool. And Jimmy, yeah. So interesting, because we're talking to, as you just demonstrated with me, we want to be speaking the language of chess for people who really get it and get, jacked about it.
Yeah.
Why then simplify this to be more digestible?
So, all right. So going into that intermediate stage, it's sort of like its own levels of sophistication. of the game,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so saying E4, E5 is a fantastic qualifier because it's only speaking to those people who know what that even means, you know, which is that 900, 1200 range. I'm struggling to remember exactly what was there before. I'll admit to you that. But generally, whenever I'm looking at these leads, like he gave something away. I don't remember what it was, and he's like, "Well, how do I talk about this in the lead?" And it's like, well, you can tease that you're going to talk about it, right? It's like, first I'm going to show you, you know, this 400-year-old secret, and then I'm going to reveal the person who discovered it, and I'm going to show you how they discovered it, because when once you see how it works, you'll know exactly how to implement it into your own games, right? So we're like kind of teasing things without actually telling people what it is. Other than that, it was a lot of $10 words.
Yep.
You know, and so he definitely simplified a lot of that out of this, clarified this.
Cool. This is the original, just for everybody's reference.
Okay.
So it was also a little bit more salesy. I hate to use that word in the headline, right? This happening, that happening, not anymore, right? Which is fine, because again, if this matters to you, you're reading. But what I like about the new version is that it's just directly speaking the language and getting to the benefits without the need to explain as much. It's more it's just putting it in story form. Is that how you felt about it, Jabe? Is it kind of the change? It just flowed better into context.
Yeah, the now what part? I think it just captures the mindset of the player in that situation when he's very confused, you know. So I went with it.
Yeah, that was the other big thing. Jabe, I don't remember if it was you I recorded this video on, or I sent a link or something like that. Kevin, okay, yeah. So Kevin, I kind of laid out for him that, all right, in this case, we're not necessarily sending or speaking to a static avatar, right? This is someone who's consistently in a situation that is frustrating, right? And it's like a chronic problem, and it keeps happening. And he's banging his head against the wall. I'm like, why? I can't figure this out. I'm studying. I'm doing everything I can, you know, and I keep falling into these traps. And so it's like, all right, this person is in that situation, right? And when it happens again, what can you say to that person right in that moment? That kind of tells him, hey, it's going to be okay. Let me show you a secret. Yeah. Right. And it's like, yeah, you know, truly acting as the mentor.
The mentor, right? Exactly. I love that. Demonstrating your ability to mentor, and instead of just promising and saying, trust me, I have this experience, and you having to put it together, instead just demonstrate. You're demonstrating, which is a brilliant thing to demonstrate when you're talking about chess, because you don't just have, because you do kind of go on to almost give away the lesson. I noticed, Jabe, is that still in there later in the copy?
Yeah, I did talk about a few moves into the opening, you know, from a theoretical standpoint, from a chess player standpoint, yeah.
Which is, again, just demonstrating that you have this experience, actually giving them something of value, letting them viscerally feel what it'd be like to have this person in your corner. Very cool. And so you feel good about it now. And what's the next step for this copy? Is it live? Will this be tested, or?
It will go live next week. I'm just waiting on some testimonials from the author. I actually sent him the 4 questions you discussed in the question authority method. So hopefully I get some juicy testes from him. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, that's really cool. And, you know, just be aware that sometimes this is rare, but it's amazing when it happens. You'll get a testimonial that's so good that you'll feel the urge to rewrite everything. It's gonna, but run this, right? I'm like the captain of overthinking things and procrastinating because of it. So like, just trust me, run this and then experiment later.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jabe, man. This is very cool. And I think your copy is great. I think, you got a great style, and you're clearly, are you a freelance copywriter? Is that your or are you somehow tied to this product?
I am working in-house for an edtech company based in London.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, you're doing great, and I appreciate you sharing that. And as TianYan said, please share the live page when it goes live so we can see
Will
it with
do.
graphics and
Definitely.
all that too. Awesome.
Hey,
Okay.
Kevin.
Yeah,
I want to ask you something. Can I
Sure.
share a 30-second best thing?
sure. Do it.
Okay, so this is related to supply and demand, which is what you were talking about at the beginning of this call. Okay, and I cannot remember where I heard this. I heard this recently. All right, so I heard this recently on YouTube or something like that, where this guy was in a situation where he was in like a public event, and he was going around talking to people, and he talked to one guy who is a jeweler or a retired jeweler in the industry, like one of the old names, like a Rockefeller type name for the
Yeah.
jewel industry, like De Beers or something like that. And he said, so what's like the secret to business? Like, why are jewel prices always, so high? He says, so we do things the opposite of how business normally operates. He says, when demand increases, we cut supply. So when desire increases, cut supply, and then what happens to demand and desire?
It goes up. Yeah.
It skyrockets, right? And so I think of desire as like tension. And if you imagine a balloon, right, and you're filling up this balloon and it gets tense, well then, and I do this in my copy and my emails, it's like I build something up and I'm like, but I'm not going to tell you about it, right? You have to wait till the next email. And then they see the next email and it lets a little bit of that pressure out, but I don't let it all out, just a little bit, and then let it build up. And so the whole point is you want to keep that tension there, because if you let it all out, if you unload all the supply to meet the demand, well then overall desire goes away. The product is flooded in the markets. Now it's not supreme brand. Now it's whatever Walmart sells. It's like, I can get this everywhere. So these shoes cost $9 instead of 9,000. So thinking of that with the scheduling, like you were talking about, scheduling yourself and giving yourself a wait list, I think that's really a neat approach to it.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you for that. That's a good lesson. And particularly when you think about writing in that regard, like you said about how you structure your emails, I always say one of my great secret weapon copy books is geez, I can't think of the name. It's right here. I have it right here. Resonate by Nancy Duarte. Resonate.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
What's great about this book is it's really all about tension and storytelling and keeping people on the edge of their seats when you give a talk, when you give a speech. And I always say the reason this is people don't think of that in copy, but that's what great copy is. I just had one of our members send me a 20-page advertorial about a butter knife, but it was satirical. And dude, I read every word and laughed and couldn't turn away for 19 pages about a butter knife. He was basically joking. And then so suddenly I'm like fascinated. I'm like, how did he keep me on the edge of my seat? I'm like, I get it. It's a butter knife. No, it was so good because he just kept that tension there. And then I told him it was satirical. He didn't even have the product. I literally went and searched. I'm like, please tell me this butter knife's real. And I went to Amazon and bought 3 different kinds. I was like, man, that's a good sales letter.
It's like the Korebuta ham of butter knives.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was like.
That's awesome.
Kudos to Craig Dave, who was the person who wrote that and sent that to me. So
That's
awesome. All right, Jimmy. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jabe, for being in the hot seat. Thank you, TianYan, for all your wisdom. And thank you, Alix. Thank you, Lolita, for keeping us in check and online and keeping everybody running smooth inside a Copy Chief. If you would like to book a call with any of our coaches, so that you can talk about maybe getting into one of our coaching programs or getting more help with your copy, your career, like Jimmy has. Go to copychief.com. What is it, Lolita, if you can put that in the chat? I can't quite remember the URL, but it's copychief.com/booking. I don't know. I'm sorry. I closed the
/butter knife.
Book a call. Book a call. It's got some nice rhythm to it. Book a call. Copychief.com, book a call. All right, everybody. Appreciate you. And yeah, you can also rent a badass sitter too if you want, like someone like Jimmy or Alix's or Tian's eyes on your copy specifically. We make that very affordable for our members. So we're here. We got your back, and nobody writes alone. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. See you on the next one. Bye.